Jake Paul thought he could handle a prime heavyweight, but one brutal punch from Anthony Joshua changed everything. Jaws shattered, careers on the line, and the boxing world left in shock. This wasn't a fight, it was a wake-up call.
Yeah. Though, because if you get fouled and knocked unconscious, and then you come back,
you're just gonna get knocked out.
Yeah.
If you get knocked out,
that right, and that sudden, quick, violent rotation of the head is going to transmit a lot of rotational force, not only through the brain, but also through the brainstem, absolutely leading to possibility of a concussion. Thankfully, it didn't completely knock him out, but could absolutely result in some delayed symptoms.
Speed. Anthony Joshua has that kind of speed.
Joe Rogan reacted to Jake Paul being rushed to the hospital following the devastating Anthony Joshua knockout, breaking down the sequence alongside Daniel Cormier. Rogan highlighted how terrifyingly clean the punch landed and reminded viewers that boxing stops being entertainment the moment a shot like that connects. He emphasized that this sport carries permanent consequences, noting that when elite heavyweights strike flush, careers and even lives can be altered instantly. Rogan stressed that no amount of confidence or preparation can fully shield a fighter from the long-term impact of punches at this level.
Cold.
He was
and then
done.
He outboxed him for the rest of the round.
How? But again, in MMA, fight probably would have been over, and he would have took less damage.
Right, but isn't that...
Dr. Brian Sutter analyzed the aftermath from a medical perspective, focusing less on hype and more on real danger. He explained that while many anticipated Jake Paul to struggle, the alarm escalated when Jake himself feared his jaw was broken. Sutter noted that, given how Joshua's right hand connected with the left side of Jake's face, a jaw fracture was entirely plausible. More concerning, he said, was the risk of concussion the violent rotation of Jake's head likely transmitted. Rotational forces through the brain and brainstem, increasing the potential for neurological injury. Even without a full knockout, delayed symptoms remained a serious concern. Jake's stunned reaction indicated immediate awareness that something had gone very wrong.
That we all expected. After the fight, though, Jake told Ariel Helwani that he was worried that he had broke his jaw. He said multiple times he was concerned that he had a fractured jaw. And certainly looking at this knockout punch that Anthony Joshua delivers, it is absolutely a possibility that Jake does in fact have a jaw fracture. I'd honestly be more concerned about a concussion. In fact, with most jaw fractures, the more important thing initially is to look for other injuries to the head, to the neck, to the airway. The jaw fracture potentially being there or not is going to be lower on the list often than whether there's damage to the airway, damage to the head. And so very possible to have a concussion or some residual symptoms from this, as Jake Paul's head is relatively still here. We see AJ comes in with that right, and that sudden, quick, violent rotation of the head is going to transmit a lot of rotational force, not only through the brain, but also through the brainstem, absolutely leading to possibility of a concussion. Thankfully, it didn't completely knock him out, but could absolutely result in some delayed symptoms. But you can see where the punch comes in, landing square on that left side of Paul's face. Jake's reaction was pretty telling too. Right away after it, we could see him going down on the canvas here and being very shocked. It doesn't look like there's any obvious deformity to the jaw. We won't necessarily always see a deformity to the jaw, but you could tell he clearly had realized that something serious had happened there and feeling the full power of AJ's right. And finally, on this last view, we can see a little bit better the exact location where the punch comes in. We'll talk about our jaw anatomy, the different areas of the bones, but your temporomandibular joint, where your jaw articulates with the rest of your skull, is sitting right around in this area, and the jaw is roughly coming down in this orientation. And so where that punch comes in from Joshua is a little bit more kind of flush right in the center of the mandible. But
Joe Rogan also reminded fans that he had predicted this outcome well before the fight. He explained that Jake Paul had become accustomed to facing older or inactive opponents, but this was an entirely different challenge. Facing a prime-level heavyweight was not just risky, it was dangerous. Rogan highlighted that the skill gap at the elite level is unforgiving, and once crossed, there is virtually no margin for error.
Joe Rogan experience.
What do you think about Jake Paul, Anthony Joshua?
Boy. Well, realistically, it's one of the craziest propositions of all time. You take a guy who just had a boxing match that looks like a sparring match with a 58-year-old Mike Tyson, and then you're going to fight one of the absolute scariest knockout artists in the heavyweight division. Maybe we should watch the Francis Ngannou fight so you could see. Let's watch that real quick, just so you can see what Anthony Joshua is capable if he's fighting someone that's not in his league. Okay, look, Usyk beat him, and he beat him twice, and Andy Ruiz caught him in the first fight and dropped him.
The fallout from Jake Paul stepping into the ring with Anthony Joshua ignited fierce debate across the boxing world. While some fans applauded Jake for his bravery, respected analysts strongly disagreed with that narrative. Luke Thomas pushed back, arguing that the praise was misplaced and overstated. He stated that people were celebrating survival rather than true competition. According to Thomas, Joshua did not fight at full intensity and clearly held back. This was not a competitive bout, but rather a controlled display in which an elite heavyweight showed restraint. Jake struggled to engage, demonstrated no tactical growth, and failed to display genuine intent to win. From Thomas's perspective, the performance exposed limitations, not progress in
Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua fight. I think I would say that my conclusions now still match most of what I said when I was watching on the initial broadcast, which is that Joshua, he did look a little rusty to me. I'm sorry, but he did. That Jake is, probably a little bit better than we suggested he might be. When I say we, I mean like the hardcore fight community, the fight fans, the people who work in the industry to a degree. Sometimes there is a suggestion that he can't do anything. And I would be like, well, that's a little much. He can do stuff. I mean, it's limited what he can do. It's very limited what he can do. But there is a little bit too much anger towards him sometimes, or just dismissiveness, maybe is a better way to put that. And I don't really co-sign on some of that. He's got some ability. He's not good. Listen to me very carefully. He's not good. But is he the caricature that he is sometimes made out to be in terms of his pure boxing skill? I think it goes a little overboard sometimes. But that isn't the reason why I wanted to make this video. What I wanted to make this video about is two things. One, after the fight was over, I got on social media and people were like hugely negative about the fight. And I did not think that the fight was good. In fact, I thought the fight was, like most Jake Paul fights, pretty bad, although him surviving kind of feeds into the story of him being perhaps a little bit better than we sometimes think, although I don't really co-sign on that. Let me make the point. The first point is, I think people are overreacting a little bit. People were suggesting when I got on social media that this was like the biggest farce they'd ever seen in their life, and then this was, how could he fight like this, and this was a disaster, and Joshua should have got him out there earlier. There is probably some evidence to suggest that I don't think Joshua was carrying him in the sense of, hey, they coordinated this ahead of time. But was Joshua really stepping on the gas? No, I don't think he was really stepping on the gas. There were times I think
Lawrence Wook examined the situation from a broader perspective but reached a similar conclusion. He focused on boxing's unforgiving nature, explaining that a single mistake can end everything in an instant. Allowing such mismatches, he argued, is reckless regardless of popularity or promotion. Wook emphasized that attention does not make danger acceptable, while some commentators acknowledged Jake's willingness to absorb punishment and continue. Even that praise came with limits. Being hospitalized with a serious jaw injury might reflect toughness, but toughness alone does not make a legitimate boxer. Courage without competitiveness does not elevate status, and the injury only reinforced concerns about whether these fights should take place at all.
We all know he broke his jaw. We all know we've seen the x-ray. There is a video of the x-ray that he showed us on his Instagram, so that was no AI. And it showed where his jaw had to be reconstructed and, wired, right? So he can't have any hard foods for a while. And again, I think Jake Paul is going to get respect for that, because it's one thing, because we all know about Jake. I think the problem with Jake was he was bullshitting us by giving us fights that we didn't want to see, for one, and for two, wasn't giving us fights most of the time of the people that could beat him. He gave us Tommy Fury, and then Tommy Fury actually beat him, which, whatever. But he did drop Tommy Fury with a left hook, so that was an impressive thing he did against the guy. Can't say the only guy now, because AJ fought him and knocked him out. But other than that, though, fighting Mike Tyson, Anderson Silva, which Anderson Silva showed that he is still very dangerous and very, very ready at 50 years old. You know what I mean? Like, what he did to Tyron Woodley was classic Anderson Silva. He picked his shots. You know what I mean? He moved with grace, he moved with wisdom, and he knew exactly what to do. And again, he should have went over to boxing a long time ago, but Jake beat him. So that just made Jake's, stock rise, right? In the sense of, hey, well,
Adam Kataterodl delivered one of the harshest critiques. He condemned modern boxing's obsession with fame, asserting that Jake Paul represents a system that rewards attention over merit. According to Katatadal, Anthony Joshua didn't even throw his punches at full power, yet still caused severe damage. That alone exposed the enormous gap between them. He warned that if Joshua had fully committed, the outcome could have been far worse. For Katatadal, this fight exemplified everything broken in the sport, where years of hard-earned rankings matter less than internet popularity. Jake Paul's involvement wasn't impressive, it was proof of a system drifting away from sporting integrity. Interview 7.
For my own credibility, I've got to knock you out, but I've got to try and knock you out where I'm not hurting you as much as what I could if I unleashed.
Yeah.
And with the punch you said that you landed, it's not his best punch,
It's
his
an arm
most
punch,
powerful
mate.
punch, right? Yep. And he's shattered his jaw in 2 places, right? So Anthony Joshua gets his 70 million, 60, whatever it is. But I think he's sitting there thinking, thank God for that. Thank God. On a human level, I've come out, all right, I've sort of, not reputation, but I haven't hurt him as bad as
Mate,
what I could have.
There should be an awful amount of people breathing a massive sigh of relief. Anybody that put that fight together, athletic commissions, like you
But
said.
it wasn't a fight.
No,
was
it wasn't at all. Like you said, it was a prize
Yes.
fight. It was an event. If Anthony damages him, he's got to live with that for the rest of his life.
Absolutely.
That's a lot of stress to deal with. You know what I mean? So I'm sure he's bleeding inside of relief. The team that have put him in there, that have negotiated that for him, but the authorities that put that on and commissioned it as a proper boxing match, I've no doubt.
Does that go on his... Because it,
Yeah, it's a professional boxing.
do you know what? If I was Anthony Joshua, I would be saying, I don't want that on my record.
Well, yeah.
But for the credibility of them putting the fight on, they would have said to him, no, we've got to say this. It's been commissioned. It's going to be a proper fight. And yeah, I found it, I love my boxing, but I just find the whole thing really, really unedifying. You said about get followers. You mentioned Tommy Fury. Tommy Fury is nowhere near is his level of getting like a British title fight or whatever. Nowhere near. So it's basically he's like...
Beat Jake Paul.
Well, oh yeah, sorry, yeah, beat Jake Paul. But so
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that's 100. I stand by that, and I think Tommy would admit that. You know what I mean? To become a British champion is a very prestigious thing to do, and I think he would struggle to do that.
yeah, but I think when I was reading, he got 5.6 or